Diamond Dogs, Book 2, Chapter 8, written by Anne Malley, narrated by Anne Malley, copyright 2022. Dear Lord, not like this. Gracie righted herself, charged into the aisle, and reached for the phone. Jay froze her with a flat hand. We're both fine, he said, but I'll pass on the brotherly love. Stop it. Stop it right now. Gracie flashed her own version of dry ice until Jay handed her the telephone. Have fun, he said. He grabbed his blanket and gave Gracie his back. Danny? Gracie retreated into the galley and shut the pocket door to give herself the illusion of privacy. Her brother's voice boomed so loud she didn't need to put the phone to her ear. I can't tell you what's going on if you're just going to yell. What am I supposed to do? Whisper? Wait? Yelling isn't helping. Oh, that's right. Whisper and wait is what I'm supposed to do. And in the confines of my home, apparently. Only now I have a keeper. What are you talking about? A snort filled the airwaves. Some State Department muckety-muck insists that I need protection. Thank you, Lord, Gracie breathed, then said, He's right. You're a potential target. She trusted Dex's promise to watch her family and seal his assurances, but confirmation raced through Gracie like a miracle medication. It hadn't been easy ignoring Danny's calls, but Dex apparently was okay with contact, otherwise her brother wouldn't have this number. Are the kiddos with you? She asked. No, Danny growled, and thanks to you, Liz will never let me have them again. Bitterness oozed over the phone, toxic and too familiar. This isn't my weekend, but you can bet her busy bee friends in the neighborhood are filling her in. Project Happy Family is a wash. Gracie gulped hot fury. There won't be a happy family with you out of the picture, no matter what I do. Liz should know what's going on with her children's father. That had been the main reason for the split. It was never about Danny's disability. Danny's being unemployed didn't help either, though. Enough, counselor. I don't need it from you, too, Danny said. I got it. Dex means well. Gracie knew that was true. Dex, is it? Danny's disapproval echoed Jay's. I guess there's more than one way to land a hot job, but whatever. Liz and the kids are my responsibility. They are safe. That's all that should concern you. I'm glad you agree. The last Gracie heard from Liz, Danny had sloughed the kids off. Well, good for you, Gracie. If you want to stay that way, don't tell Sykes anything about me. Danny took a minute, likely dragging on one of these standby cigars. You do that, and we're done. Jay has changed, Danny. Words failed. Okay, so it's you and Jay now. Got it. Her brother's laugh dredged insecurities Gracie ached to shake. I guess that arrangement was inevitable, but you're nothing special. Keep that in mind. There's never been a Mrs. Sykes. Get what I'm saying? Jay's personal life doesn't concern me, Gracie lied. We're working a case, a big one. That's why you are seeing all that on the news. I don't care what harebrained stupid has you doing, whatever it is you're doing. With Sykes involved, it can't be good. Danny paused, and Gracie felt herself sink. Do you want to end up like me? He asked her. You will if you keep at it. She swallowed. You didn't call to growl at me, did you? Don't bother, Jay mouthed, his scowling face appearing as he slid back the pocket door. Just a minute, Danny. Gracie muted the phone and turned irritation on Jay. Do you mind? I mind not getting my coffee, he answered. The rest of it is your issue. His, really. The plane lurched. Gracie's hand flew, the phone tumbling to her feet. Jay braced her in a firm grip, his eyes fixed on hers, self-assured and above asking for permission, as air pockets jarred the craft. Jay understood what Gracie was up against. There was no hiding, no denying, but his softened expression held neither judgment nor pity. Gracie's insides thawed. The melty parts stung with an onrush of feelings she'd cut off for so long. It hurt to experience them now. She gritted her teeth and retrieved the phone. There would be no shelter in Jay's arms. Danny meant what he said, and Gracie didn't trust Jay. She couldn't. I'm sorry. Jay thumbed the scrape on her hand, then brushed her long bangs away from her cheek. There's no monitoring us, Sykes. You don't have to pretend kindness, she answered. I'm not, but the Lord sees everything. Shame overtook her. Whether it was shame over her lack of faith or Jay's mention of it was debatable. He had to be toying with her. Thankfully, Gracie hadn't unmuted the phone. "Since when have you cared about any lord but yourself?" she asked. "Lording it over us is your specialty." She used a teasing tone to offset her internal squirming. "Since I met you," Jay answered. "Stop." "No, I won't. But I don't need Faith to tell me you're hurting, and I don't like it. I wish you'd let me do something about it." "Anything." Jay stared at the phone. "You'd better get back to Danny." "Yeah, so get your coffee and scoot." "Take the cabin. I'll stick around here," he said, drawing a king-size mug with a presidential seal out of the cupboard. "I need to start my day." "You need what comfort you can get." He lifted the cup and pushed it her way until she wrapped her fingers around the warm ceramic. "Thanks," she said. There was nothing else to say as he shut the door. Gracie walked to the couch and took a seat. "Not a word," Danny growled almost before she'd unmuted the phone. "I am warning you." But Gracie didn't need to be reminded. There would be no family for her if she picked up with Jay Sykes, talked to him, trusted him. Besides, this was work. Romantic notions had no place. Protection fantasies were no better. Any head shrinking her family may need should come from a disinterested third party, not Jay, who, if Gracie were honest, should be part of the group session, if only to spur him to admit why he'd helped sabotage her career. Castle Morgaine rose above a sea of deep pinks and purples some hours later, and Jay, seated beside Gracie in the rear of a chauffeured Mercedes, was forced to consider her point of earlier. What would spur Scorpion to surface and take such a risk? The cracks in his organization had to run deep for a man safely gone to ground to lift his head. It was a head Jay would dearly love to blast off its foundations. Gracie's mention of Dex's standing order to stand down in the aftermath of trapping the insurgent was another area that deserved review. Jay and Gracie were tasked with letting others on the team do their part, others who may have walking orders that turn Jay's stomach. Turning Scorpion may be the ultimate goal, something Jay would have to suffer alone, as Gracie would surely wash her hands of him. But that would be for the best, Jay reminded himself with a sidelong look at the hero who'd never know how much she meant to him. He was bad news for Gracie, a bad influence and no real friend. Danny was right in everything he'd said. The Interpol agent acting as chauffeur who'd met the pair at the airfield updated them on mission essentials. He drove through the moors with the gravitas of a funeral procession, but the single-car convoy slowed, turned north, and eventually stopped in a crunch of gravel. "Remember, you're Felicity Naylor," Jay said to Gracie, as they scooted out of the town car and into the shadow of a rampant lion topiary. Rolling his shoulders did nothing to alleviate the pinch of nerves that would be with him until this was over. Although Gracie, if she survived, would insist on ramping up, and the Diamond Dogs were tasked with doing good in a world gone far beyond dark. Jay dared not contemplate what good awaited his best buddy's little sister beyond the current challenge. Jay had his own challenge. Resisting the electric charge that told Jay he posed a danger to this mission. The urge to protect and defend, and secret Gracie Way had nothing to do with the Diamond Dogs or Danny, or anything else beyond Jay's too natural reaction to the glory Gracie posed with her every breath. Her proud chin, svelte shoulders, and that phoenix tattoo tortured him, yet he focused on the gauze bandage wrapped around her hand, scraped and no doubt stinging, the least of her wounds. The castle loomed large at last. Crenellated walls fell away to reveal an updated manor house with outbuildings transformed into an upscale garage. A rose garden, months away from full flower, marked the south side of the building. A meandering path of flagstones and moon-bathed moss invited those with a mind for the outdoors. Stiff breezes laden with heather and rampant wildflowers did the same, and yet it was Gracie's lilac perfume that stuck with Jay. It always would. If wishes were reality, the circumstances of their arrival would be far different than they were. Gracie would learn to golf and laugh and take herself less seriously. The latter is all that saved Jay and moved him towards leaving the world's salvation to those with an iron stomach. "Are we good?" Jay asked, considering Gracie's silence. "I've read the material, Mr. Bryden." Jay gripped Gracie's stiff fingers, pulling them tight against his chest. "Call me James and check the tone," he said. "I like calling you Mr. Bryden, and my tone stands." She leaned against him and crouched to refit a high-heeled sandal. Anyone who's anyone already knows our real names. It's a game, Gracie, but we're a couple. For now, she said. Her warm breath grazed his chest while he scanned the periphery, but a frosty one-liner tends towards realism. Couples argue, you know. Yes, actually, they do, he said. He let the idea sink into his bones. What does that say about us? She tipped her head. The whites of her eyes glowed and he grinned. Professional treatment didn't forestall the occasional tease. Jay needed something to lighten the mood. Danny may be correct about Jay being bad news, but her brother's undermining put Gracie at risk. The depth of Danny's cruelty was something Jay had never imagined. He ached for Gracie, angry, edified, and at a complete loss how to help if she shut him out completely. Gracie had this, though. She'd have to. Sam's oversized timepiece reminded Jay how tough she was. Jay's training reminded him not to be that guy, the leader who refused to build others up. Blasted shoe, she grumbled. You get it. You're darn right I will. We don't need any Cinderella reenactments. Gracie finished with her shoe, then rose like Aphrodite from the phone to leave Jay standing there. Her performance garnered attention. The right kind, he supposed, as arriving guests noted the haughty blonde raking windswept locks away from her pretty face. Gracie seemed to notice Jay, her eyes rounding along with her mouth, then moved away. She navigated arriving vehicles, staring down traffic as if she owned the place. Jay nodded to the chauffeur, popping the trunk to extract their luggage, then followed his girlfriend. When Jay caught up to her, Gracie's grin, unexpected as it was wide, put the fear of God into it. It's amazing, she said to the concierge. This man always knows what I need, and I mean always. Welcome to Castlemore Game, Mr. Brighton. Jay tucked his chin and looked to the concierge, whose exaggerated Scottish accent seemed more put on. If he'd been briefed that Jay wasn't James Brighton, he didn't say. He wouldn't dare. More than a tip weighed in the balance, and more than one card key exchanged hands. 2 rooms? Jay checked his shock. The concierge crinkled his brow. Your suites are adjoining, Mr. Brighton, as you requested. I didn't think we would be able to accommodate your request. But the management wanted your stay to be especially pleasant. Pleasant wasn't the word. Jay hadn't made any such request. He doubted Dex would. Gracie scooted beside Jay, her bandaged hand resting on the wooden desk. I'm assuming there's a lock? Absolutely, the Scotsman began with a swallow. The room is perfectly secure. Thank you. Gracie snatched the extra card key from Jay, not expecting less. The man set fingers to his computer registry. I've made a special note. You won't be disturbed, Miss Naylor. Are you going to muffle the construction going on? Jay asked. Well-placed drapery could not mask the scaffolding in the adjacent hall. All work has been halted for the duration, the concierge said. You'll have quiet. Is there anything else I can do for you? He asked with a shift in focus. Jay followed the line of the man's eyes. A heavy-set arms dealer, toting twin gun cases that had nothing to do with hunting, waited behind Gracie. We're good, said Jay, for the moment. We'll let you know. Gracie moved close and adjusted Jay's collar. Now stop staring, James. You want us to get killed before we've begun? She whispered for him alone. There's a moratorium on murder at this shindig, Jay muttered, but it's good to send the competition consistent messaging. Bagman over there is taking notes. So? She asked. Jay suffered the pull of wide blue eyes seeking him in earnest from beneath spiked lashes. Going on about locks and separate rooms makes it seem like we're not together. Like I said, she answered, couples argument. They make up, too. Jay threaded fingers through Gracie's silky hair and drew her close. Don't worry, honey. You'll get all the sleep you need. I'll see to it personally, he said, glancing at the man with the bags. I'd better, but don't crowd me, she whispered. Never, Jay said as Gracie broke away to laugh at the ogre. She said business and pleasure. Tricky, right? Always, the man grunted. His glower shifted from Gracie to Jay, the overlarge cases still bracketing his booted legs. Jay took a swift inventory, calculating what might be inside those bags. Enjoy your stay. Bill Hobbs approached, hands filled with familiar luggage, so he turned to Gracie. Shall we? I meant what I said about privacy, Gracie insisted as she climbed the grand staircase beside him. She set fingers to the necklace at her throat and said, We have enough going on without... Without what, he asked. Nothing. She moved her hand to her hair. Never mind. Speak your mind or don't. Her sudden flush said everything that Jay wanted to know. Dangerous didn't begin to explore the sensations racking him at the thought of Gracie wrestling with attraction. I'm still in the lead, he said. If I pull the plug on this operation, you're done, but I'm not going to. Why not? Because you can absolutely do this, and I rely upon you to bring every ounce of skill to this mission. She tucked stray hairs behind her left ear. I want Scorpion as much as you do. There's no need to convince me, he said. You're getting into character like a pro. This is no character, she answered. This is what I do. Needs must. If I had my way, we would be tracking Scorpion directly instead of letting him find us. You always did go after what you want, stampeding like a bull, Jay thought as they rounded a curve in the stairs, and never once had she chased him. Something wrong with that? She asked. No, you made an impression downstairs. Gracie had done the same in Iraq, her stellar performance and perceptivity putting her on Colonel Markham's radar. Watch your back, Jay said. Sorry. That's your job, Gracie answered. Watching out for you is a full-time job. You trust me then? Jay waited so long for that. I'm counting on the team. If I'm slow in that regard, it's because having a team, a real one, is a novelty for me. She shamed him with the same blue eyes that had teased him and tormented him moments ago. Dex Driscoll is the only one keeping me from doing things my way. Hallelujah! Jay brushed the small of her back as they reached the landing. He should have known better than to think Gracie trusted him. You going rogue might blow this entire mission, he said, and incur ramifications neither of us would want to own. Says you. Keep me posted on what you're thinking, Jay said. I'll do the same. Gracie really wasn't innocent, and like it or not, Jay still owed Danny, too. The idea is to come out of this in one piece, said Jay, not cash in a fat insurance policy. She removed his hand with her bandaged one and said, We are not in one piece, Jay. Just so. In light of recent concessions, he insisted he check on her room before she entered, then smiled benignly when he returned into the hallway. I'll meet you for tea in an hour. I'll be there, she said. Adjusting his cuffs, Jay waited in the hallway as Gracie, the bellhop, and requisite luggage slipped into her room. The bellhop exited with a handful of colorful pound notes moments later, then led the way next door and ushered Jay inside a cozy room. After tipping the man, Jay closed the door too, grinning as the bolt on the adjoining door between the rooms slammed shut. Gracie's fixation on keeping things professional led Jay to believe that she feared the personal. Her feelings, maybe? She certainly had issues about sharing a room. As if Jay would ever press her or any woman with unwanted affections. Or whatever her fears, Jay knew he was enjoying this pairing far too much. The reunion of Sykes and Snow had morphed into a formidable power couple, and he liked that very much. Gracie dropped onto the sofa. The antique two-seater reminded her that despite separate rooms, she wasn't in this alone. She had a partner, a confidant. She had a friend who knew her and her history far too well. Self-doubt surged. It was blowback from her brother's critique, and Gracie should hate Danny for his cruelty. He may be correct, however. Gracie may be attracted to Jay thanks to some inexorable pull of nature that was fated to happen. The sizzling inside her mind and everywhere else was something she did not will. It just happened, like a good many things happened, changing people into all manner of monsters. Danny qualified as a monster more often than Gracie would like to admit. Her brother was family and needed her help whether he appreciated it or not. Still, Gracie wished that her brother had changed, mellowed and matured like Jay seemed to have done. Those obvious confidence boosters had cost him, much like Gracie's insistence that they maintain a professional distance. Jay respected her though, or at least he was trying. The realization settled in her stomach. Aftertaste was sweeter than expected as she set her HK on the table before her. An array of brochures lay beside the gun, with an obliging pencil touting a gold-embossed Morgan castle on its sleek black surface. It was a keepsake to snatch before leaving. She stared down the opposite wall, envisioning her new partner kicking back like he typically did. At ease, in his element, and fully on top of the situation. Jay was probably curled under a convenient blanket, or a plaid. A laugh welled up, and Gracie let it out. Why not? The turn that saw her in Scotland, partnered with Jay Sykes, was the biggest joke on the planet. but the result would be the remaking of Gracie Snow. Her career, she corrected, and only if she stuck to business. Gracie clutched up her hair, twisted it high, and drove a pencil home inside the knot to keep it in place. A minute spent reviewing dossiers wouldn't be wasted, so she whipped them out of the oversized handbag that Sela had supplied. Gracie needed to place that walking brick who'd ogled her in the lobby. She'd give herself top marks for keeping her cool, though. Just thinking of what lay outside those black bags turned her insides to slush. Routine domestic investigation seemed safe by comparison, preferable. Sweat bathed her face despite the slow-pumping air conditioning doing its best to cool the cavernous room. The craggy fireplace and curtained four-poster bed didn't quite fill it up. A striped Bengal tiger gaped up at her from the floor in complete agreement. The flattened fur rug was a remnant of a forgotten age, an age with excess furniture and fascinating clutter, where hunting game was the thing and ladies took the grand tour. Sometimes it wasn't the tiger who got skinned. Gracie massaged her neck, tension drilling down her spine and everywhere flesh met bone. What could she tell Danny if this mission exploded in her face? He'd been right to be angry. She may be glad that Dex kept his word, setting a guard around her brother's Las Vegas home. But Danny wouldn't need protection if Gracie avoided the danger zone. She scowled, imagining Jay snoring again. What did he have to weigh him down? The man was ether. His silky smooth career path and ready connections made breezing in and out the norm for him. Jay could retire whenever he felt like it, go fishing in some forgotten backwater. She refused the farce that Jay's only interest was keeping her on the hook and ending Scorpion. Jay Sykes liked this world. He got off on the power of picking things up or laying them down because he was that good, that in demand. He relished his cover story too, even more than having freed Gracie from that blasted share in Las Vegas. Gracie sure enjoyed it. She licked her lips, disgusted with herself. Physical reactions happened. Feelings happened when one was consigned to a fleshy prison, but Jay's understanding what she suffered with Danny settled better than melting butter. His compassionating her was more addictive than any street drug. If only Gracie were stone like the old fireplace, but even that had chinks in it. The draft working its way inside the room rippled her skin. Wristwatch ticking. Tea time with Jay looming. She picked up her weapon, grabbed her toiletries and headed to the bathroom. A private hideaway. At least there was that. It would be too much sharing facilities with Jay. There'd be no room. With her essentials piled on the toilet lid, HK on the bowl, she opened the shower stall and cranked on the taps. She shrugged off the silk blouse and slacks she'd donned for the trip, then loosened her hair to slip inside the stall. Hot water blasted her, the occasional burp of air in the bubbles being no big deal. She unwrapped the soap, a Scottish lavender, and let herself be herself for a minute. What she wouldn't give for her Hulk poster right now. Being angry all the time took effort. Too bad scrubbing only cleaned her skin. The lingering sense of Jay's nearness resided in her mind, much like the recollection of his pointed comments. Jay didn't want to be like Danny, and neither, Gracie decided, did she. She had to let go of being angry. Resolved for once, she lathered her hair, then rinsed and repeated, leaning outside to grab a towel when a shoe dropped. Something, anyway. Gracie wasn't alone.